Hello, I'm Dwayne Little. I'm a Liberty University student and want to talk about my research on Grant's peace policy. I covered his first 2 years, and the focus was on Grant and his first superintendent of Indian Affairs, Eli Parker. And you can see from the primary sources, Grant's memoirs, the papers of Ulysses S. Grant, that he was a Christian. He was a humanitarian, definitely an advocate of human rights. And he wants to move the Indian Affairs Office back to the War Department. He believed that Army officers had a duty to their country, and they also had the muscle to keep out bad influences that plagued many of these reservations. And Eli Parker was a man who Grant knew well. They'd been friends for nearly a decade. They met in Galena, Illinois. Parker was a full-blooded Native American himself. He was a very talented man, and he was Grant's first choice without question. During the research, I discovered as soon as the Attorney General advised Secretary Cox that Parker could serve in that capacity. Parker wasn't a U.S. citizen. He was a Native American chief. The very day that Grant found out, he submitted his name to the Senate for confirmation. And he was confirmed pretty handily, 36 votes to 12, so 75%. That's a pretty good endorsement of Parker. The reason the Grant peace policy, I discovered, wasn't as successful as Grant and Parker would have hoped. Too much division. A board of commissioners, which was Parker's idea, ended up being adversarial to Parker for sure, and overall Grant's plan. A man named William Welsh, who was the first chairman, believed that this voluntary organization that Grant had created with an executive order, he was under the impression he was going to run things. And, Parker did not see it that way. Certainly President Grant didn't see it that way. And eventually this William Welsh is going to cause so much trouble that Parker is going to resign. He accuses Parker of mismanaging the Indian Affairs Office, never mentioning him by name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. And the congressional hearing was really a disaster for Welsh and for Parker. It put a lot of stress on Parker. The evidence was zero of any, foul play in the Parker administration. Another problem was Congress. Congress wanted to hold on to its control of Indian supervisors on the reservations. Indian agents often did poor things. They would sell the Indian goods and then replace them with cheaper goods. And this had been a problem for ever. And Grant had the solution, but Congress wanted to gain control of this cash cow, made a stipulation in appropriations bill that officers could not serve in a civilian capacity. So if an officer wanted to be in charge of one of these reservations, policing the Indian agents, he'd have to give up his commission, which could mean, he's not going to get a pension. His pension's not going to be as great. And Grant was able to circumvent Congress from taking control, putting the old corrupt system back in, by his proactive move of having his Secretary Cox, Jacob Cox was his Secretary of Interior. He had Cox reach out to Methodist, Baptist, other Protestant faiths to help supplement But Quakers were taking some of these positions that Army officers could not fulfill. So Grant was ready. He did not anticipate this move, but he was ready just in case. And so you see Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian. And when Grant ran out of Protestants, he looked to the Catholics. And even some rabbis served. The biggest problem, however, was it was just too difficult of a task to try and police the West with the hundreds of thousands of Americans and newly arriving Europeans coming into the West, infringing on Indian territory, and the Indians, pushing back a little bit. So Grant tried. Ultimately, wasn't as successful as he'd hoped, but he was able to save a lot of Native American lives. Thank you.